You're listening to Prosperity Report, Love and Money Podcast. I'm your host, Kanae Corder, best-selling author, international speaker, and clinical hypnotherapist specializing in financial therapy. Each week, we'll bring you actionable ideas, tips, tools, and resources to help you get the mindset shift you need to feel more confident personally and financially, so you can reduce stress, work less, and make a huge impact on your world and your income. Now, let's get into today's show. Do you ever wonder if your brain is secretly plotting against you? The truth is, it is. Your brain is full of negative messages and programs. These negative messages block you from success and cause stress. And right now, whether you know it or not, your brain is standing in the way of your success, the success you were meant to have. Over my years of clinical practice, I've created a system that helps uncover the counterproductive brain habits imprinted by society. If your business has not reached the level of success you would like it to, it's time to take action. Join me and one powerful group of achievers in my free coaching community. It's the tribe for people who want to get guidance and connection so they can be in business for themselves, but not by themselves. Go to kanaecorder.com/community. Get the guidance and connection you need to take your business to the next level. Go to kanaecorder.com/community. Let's talk about what is hypnotherapy and who is it good for. This is episode 57 and I want to welcome you. I'd like to talk about this subject because I get a lot of questions around what hypnotherapy is, but also who is it good for? How do I know if I should get hypnotherapy? Now, I don't consider myself in the business of educating people on what hypnotherapy is, but I think I should attempt at giving you some color around it so that you are informed, because hypnotherapy is misunderstood and it's such a powerful tool, and I wouldn't want it to get overlooked, underutilized, and I definitely don't want it to be misunderstood because it works really well. It doesn't work for everybody the same way, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later when I talk about who it's good for. So here's what I'll do. I'll talk about what hypnotherapy is not, and then I'll talk about what it is. Then lastly, I'll talk about who is it good for. And then, giving you this kind of framework might be helpful for you to see if hypnotherapy would be right for you. I use hypnotherapy one-on-one and also in a group setting. I'll talk a little bit later about kind of the differences and what you can expect. All right, so I'll start with what it is not. If you've seen like hypnotherapy on a stage, like in Vegas or somewhere like that, that's not the hypnotherapy that clinicians do. There is hypnotherapy for entertainment, and then there's clinical hypnotherapy. Clinical hypnotherapy is what I practice and many of my colleagues practice. And when you see that hypnotherapy on stage, it's very concentrated. It's almost like the hypnotherapist can poll the audience, and I won't give their thing away, but they can poll the audience to see who's most hypnotizable, and then they pick those people out of the audience, bring them on stage, and then they show off for you, but you pay for it, so you deserve that show. But that's not what hypnotherapy is. Also, I want to make sure that I say that hypnotherapy is not mind control, not even close. In fact, you are in hypnosis every single day, and I'll tell you in a second how. So it's not mind control, and what I want you to take away from this little nugget is that what it does is not allow other people to control your mind. It actually allows you to better control your mind. How does that sound? Good. Most of my patients come to me and they say, I just want to have more control over my emotions. And a lot of times those emotions start in your brain 99% of the time. They're going to start in your subconscious. I'm only saying 99 and not 100 because I haven't done a study to say that. So I just want to be fair. It's not what you've seen on stage. It's not mind control. It's not what you've seen in movies like Get Out and Now You See Me. It's not that at all. Like what you saw in Get Out, where there was this combination of like mind control and taking you to the sunken place and really like pulling you down into an area that almost seemed like you would be zombie-like. And although hypnotherapy is very relaxing and almost numbing, like you still can feel during hypnotherapy. Now, most hypnotherapists don't want you to feel anxiety or fear or, any of the negative emotions all the way through a session. You may feel a little bit of that just so that you can become aware of what it is that you would like to clear. But that'll take me to what hypnotherapy is. It's a really powerful healing modality that allows you to clear away your past hurt and pain so that you can stop taking it into your future. Does that sound like something you want in your life? I think it does. At least for me, it does. I love clearing my past. I love getting rid of the pain. And that's really why I was put on this earth. My job on this earth is to relieve some of the pain in the world. And I have really been able to do that using hypnotherapy. Now, earlier I said that you are in hypnosis almost every day. I'd say every day. Again, going back to the 99%. And here, let me tell you how you are in hypnotherapy every single day. There's this space between awake and asleep, and that's hypnosis. Every single day you travel from awake to asleep, and it could be very short, but in that second, you are in hypnosis. Now, my job as a hypnotherapist is to guide you through that process, hold you in that brain state, which is theta, where your brain waves are slowing down enough for you to adjust your subconscious brain, but not so much. It doesn't slow down so much that it takes you into delta or deep sleep. I don't want to get too technical because it's not about the technical jargon and the words. If there is a hypnotherapist listening to this episode, don't cringe because this is not for you. So I don't necessarily have to speak your language. This is for all the other people out there that are going to come to me and you for help with the pain that they're in. And hypnotherapy is good for emotional pain and physical pain, which is so freaking awesome. Instead of taking medication, you can take this version of sleep, this lighter version of sleep that is not as evasive. It has very little side effects. And the reason why I say very little is because one of the side effects of hypnotherapy is that it's possible that after you leave my office or whoever the hypnotherapist is, you'll begin to heal more and more. And the way you heal is to release those old ideas and conditions and programs and stories. And so they'll start to pop up and it may cause some emotion. You may feel some sadness or tearing up, but it'll pass through, which is the great thing because it's been lodged in your body. And that's the great part about hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy is a way to release all of the old out of your body and start anew. It's a mindset reset. It's a way to release old patterns from your brain. You know those old patterns, right? Those things you keep doing over and over again. Do you want to keep doing them over and over again? Probably not, even if you're not willing to admit it right now in this moment. It's likely that you have admitted it to yourself. At some point you said, why do I keep doing this? I've got to stop doing this. Or, oh, this angers me, or I'm so disappointed in myself for doing this again. Somewhere you said something like that. And that's the places where you may want to utilize hypnotherapy so that you can heal. So who is hypnotherapy good for? Hypnotherapy is good for those who have had trauma or traumatic experiences. I really like using it for PTSD, anxiety. I don't prefer using it for depression. That's not my favorite healing modality for depression, but I do like it for post-traumatic stress disorder. I like it for anxiety, pain, whether physical or emotional. I also somewhat like it for grief. However, grief can sometimes have that depression associated with it. I like it for even chronic mental health illnesses like schizophrenia and bipolar. And yes, there are people who go through hypnotherapy to heal from schizophrenia and bipolar and even some of the other more severe mental illnesses. I like it for personality disorders. Now, some mental health experts will say no, they don't like it and they haven't seen results. Even Freud, the father of psychology, he stopped using it and said he didn't like it. And the reason is because he said it wasn't good for everybody. And that may be because he wasn't using brain-based hypnotherapy, which is what I use. If you use a different version where you're not getting to the subconscious brain, then it isn't going to be good for everybody. Now, let's be clear. I already said that I don't like using it for depression. So hypnotherapy is not necessarily good for everybody, nor would it be as effective. Somebody may enjoy brain spotting, which we talked about in another episode, the episode on anxiety. Somebody might enjoy EMDR, tapping. There's so many modalities out there that work, and I use many of them in my practice, even Reiki, because every patient is different and what works on one may not work on another. And I just want to break a few things down for you to give you a little bit more detail. So I would say 75% of the population is hypnotizable. This is what I have been taught. And 25% is harder to hypnotize them. Now, it's not impossible, but it is a lot more difficult. And that's because that 25%, they don't visualize or imagine, which is so hard for me to understand because I'm such a visual person. My imagination is just so wild. Like I could sit here and create a story in my head and watch it play out so vividly. Or if you tell me a story, I can actually give it a picture and see it. I think in pictures. So it's very difficult for me to imagine that 25% who can't visualize. And the reason why that's important is because hypnotherapy rewrites the story using visualization. So for example, if let's say there was childhood teasing, so you may have listened to the episode on what's not on your resume, episode 54, when I talked about childhood teasing in my life. So let's say that happened to you. And when that happened, at the end of that story, you ran home crying. Well, you can rewrite that story with hypnotherapy, and you can, at the end, just say something bold to that person who's bullying you or teasing you. You can also just turn around and tell that person, like, you know what? Like, I grow up to be super amazing. Like, I have this cool job. I started this really cool business, or I marry a great person. I have children. I love my life. And this thing, my lips or my limp or my scar, whatever it is that they're teasing you about, it's not even a factor in my life. Or if it is, it's so small that I don't even notice it because I love myself. And that's all that matters. You don't have to love me, but I bet you will if you get to know me, right? So say you said that. So you kind of resolve that story inside your head because what's happening in your brain, and if you're in the Prosperity Club, you know this because you've taken the brain course, you know that your brain works against you sometimes because it's trying so hard to protect you. And by protecting you, what it does is have you repeat the same thing over and over again. And those things that are traumatic are unresolved. And so they're continuing to play over and over in your head. So you keep creating places where you'll get teased even as an adult, and you'll have relationships we will still need to resolve that thing that happened with that bully when you were 7 or 8 or 6. And so finally in hypnotherapy, you can resolve it. And then you just close out that story. And I, as a hypnotherapist, I don't have you relive it. Just review it, the old story. You're just going to review the old story. And then you're going to relive the new story with the quote unquote Disney ending, the happy ending, or the more powerful ending where you take control. And then that's resolved. I like to also point out that you do have to be somewhat bought in. Really, for me, if you're just like even 10 or 15% bought in, you do not have to be 100% bought in. If there's just an inkling of readiness inside of you, you've probably heard me say before, I asked this question, is it okay for you to be okay, even though what happened to you was not okay? If the person says yes, then we can move forward. If they say no, like absolutely no, then I don't think it's a good idea to move forward because it would be so much work and it would take so much more time. And my kind of claim to fame and what I pride myself on as a hypnotherapist is that you're not going to be in therapy for 2 years trying to resolve this thing, because that can be excruciating and painful. And sometimes even you can re-traumatize yourself, especially when it's PTSD. My job, especially when it's post-traumatic stress disorder or any other kind of like major trauma, or when it's a reoccurring trauma. So for post-traumatic stress disorder, that's likely one time. Most of the time, that's just like a one-time threat that you experience. Sometimes it's more like in military or in abusive situations. And I want to make sure you understand that there are two different traumas. There's this like one-shot kind of trauma, catastrophic event. I was in a hurricane, a fire, like that, or I was sexually assaulted at random. And then there's the long-term trauma, like it happened over and over and over again. And maybe I was abused, maybe you were at war, whatever it was, it happened over and over and over again. And those are two separate kinds of traumas, but they can both be healed by hypnotherapy. I want to educate the public on hypnotherapy because I love it so much. And like I said before, I use so many other modalities, probably 10 other modalities, but hypnotherapy is my default. And it's the one I pride myself behind because I've seen it do some powerful things. I've seen it take a kid who was threatening his parents, like almost to the point where they were locking their bedroom door because they were afraid of what he might do. And he transformed to the sweetest kid just by relieving his pain. He was in pain. And by using hypnotherapy, he relieved that pain. And he wasn't really all that ready, kind of, but not exactly. So I had to help him reset his mindset, forgive his parents because they weren't out to get him or hurt him. And he did that. And now he's thriving. But because of stories like that, I'm so proud to be called a hypnotherapist. Now, I said earlier, I do hypnotherapy on a group or one-on-one setting. And when I do it on a group setting, it is effective. But what makes it less effective than one-on-one is that we can't get specific. And the more specific you are, the more healing can happen. So on a group setting, I have to stay pretty general. But every once in a while, if you know me, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I use a lot of intuition. And I'm empathetic, and there are things that I just know. And so sometimes there'll be someone on the call or, in the group that pain is so deep that I feel it immediately. And so I'll channel it towards them for a little while and give them a little bit of a deeper healing. And I may put something in the show notes and better make a note of that. There was one coaching call that I did with hypnotherapy at the end in my Summer of Success program. That might be a good example to kind of show you what a clearing session is like, a group clearing session. It wasn't full out hypnotherapy, but it was a group clearing session. And I think you might enjoy that. So I'll put that in the show notes. Also, I will point out that you may start out in group therapy and group hypnotherapy because that may be your entry point, but you may find that you want to go deeper and work one-on-one with me or another hypnotherapist. Now, the reason why I couple my hypnotherapy with financial therapy, and that's kind of like where I really made a name for myself, is because I see a lot of stress around money. What happens to us as children, we kind of overlook or quote unquote get over it, but we don't really. So it plays out in other places in our lives, even though we're overlooking it or pretending like it's not bothering us. It plays out around money a lot of times. Money governs our life. Now, many people say, oh, money's not that important, or I'm not money motivated, and all these things about pushing themselves away from money or pushing money away from them. And that in and of itself needs healing because money is important and it's okay to say it. And it's not a bad thing. Money is not bad. It's almost like if you didn't like computers, and it's like computers themselves are not a bad thing. You can utilize them to do a lot of things. Your phone is not a bad thing. Like I have a totally different perspective on this whole like phone thing, and everybody's like disconnect from the phone. The phone itself is not a bad thing, but how you utilize it could be. So stop giving things this negative connotation or this negative label that as a whole, they're not negative. There's some positive. So see what's going well about that thing. What goes well about money? What goes well about computers? What goes well about phones? So anything we name has a negative and a positive charge with it. And I'm asking you to open your brain to see differently. So that's where I'll end, is this last understanding that hypnotherapy basically opens your brain to see other choices. Now, most of the time your brain sees one choice, and it's probably the one you've kept repeating since you were 3 years old or however old you were. Well, there's so many more options out there. And so what hypnotherapy does is open your vision so you can see all those other options and try some of them. Not all of them will work, but the good thing is you're just trying other ones rather than doing that same thing, expecting a different result. And you're not crazy. It's not insanity. That's humanity. That's what we do as humans. We do the same thing, expecting a different result because the brain sees familiar as good and unfamiliar as bad. So if you're ready to let go of those patterns, you can heal from your past, your pain, but it is a decision and you've got to make it for yourself. So I said I'll put that coaching. It wasn't a free coaching. It was part of a paid program, but I'll pull that one piece out and give that to you. We do have a way that you can experience some of this, and it's through our community, our confidence coaching community. And that's just like a gateway into seeing what else we do, because Prosperity Club is a paid membership and it's so valuable. It's so much good stuff in there. We do hypnotherapy each month in Prosperity Club, and our Prosperous Life or our Prosperous CEO program is our one-on-one program where we do hypnotherapy one-on-one and some of the other modalities too. Now in group, I really mostly use the hypnotherapy. I don't really use the other modalities. And that's what I do in Prosperity Club. But I say, go ahead, jump into the confidence coaching community and get to know us and let us get to know you. Then you will get ready to go into Prosperity Club, because I can't wait to see you in the club. It's such a great place, such a way to continue to learn and teach yourself what you want for your life and what you deserve and desire. So I'll see you in the club. In the meanwhile, go to the show notes, click around, see what you can discover, and decide if it's okay for you to be okay, even though what happened to you was not okay. I'll see you sooner. Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you want more love and money conversations, subscribe to this podcast. Also, tell your friends about us. I'll see you next episode. But in the meantime, head on over to KeneCorder.com for more tips, tools, and resources. And go ahead and leave us a comment if you like. We'd love to hear from you. This show is not to replace professional counsel. The best advice comes from a professional you know. The topics discussed in this podcast are general in nature and are for entertainment and informational purposes only. We encourage you to meet with a professional to discuss your specific situation, whether financial or therapeutic. That's all for now. I'll see you sooner. Remember, no matter what anybody ever tells you, you can have wealth in all of its forms. Believe it, and you will soon see it.